Hello, this is Mr. Maximus Film, and about 3 weeks ago I promised I would review Cream's Wheels of Fire, released 1968, and I never got to it, but today I am. So this is Cream's Wheels of Fire, their third album. It's a double, it's a studio disc and a live disc, and what I'm going to do with this review is I'm going to take both as separate albums and give them each a score of their own. Because they're really different. They don't really go together, the studio disc and the live disc. So I'm gonna do them separately because when the album was released, they actually, in some editions, were released separately. So that's what I'm gonna do. So Cream, for those of you who don't know, is this blues, rock, psychedelic band from the 1960s. And while they've lost their sort of prominence and influence today, not a lot of people know about them. Not a lot of people, say, oh my gosh, they're really good today, like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and all that stuff, and Pink Floyd. Cream at the time was one of the more popular bands. They were a lot like the Jimi Hendrix Experience, power trio of Ginger Baker, Jack Bruce, and Eric Clapton. And this was really when Eric Clapton came into his own in terms of guitar. And his best work is with Cream. That's my opinion. Anyway, yeah, because after Cream, Eric Clapton gets really soft, and I don't like that. But whatever. I mean, Blind Faith is good, but after sort of Blind Faith and Derek and the Dominoes, his solo work gets really soft. But anyway, this is the third album. First album, Fresh Cream, has really a hard rock blues influence, like overt, like really hard rock. Second one has Disraeli Gears has a overt psychedelic influence. This one sort of mixes everything, and this is why it's probably my favorite Cream album. Is because, in terms of the studio album, is what I'm talking about now. Because it has a lot of moments. It has a lot of different moments. It has, the hard rock blues moments with Politician and White Room, and which mix the psychedelic and the hard rock, and then it has this sort of folky sort of thing going on with lots of strings. There's a lot of viola in this album coming around because their producer put a lot of viola because he could play it on this album, like on As You Said and White Room have viola parts to them, which is kind of cool. And like I said, there's this folky thing, like As You Said is this sort of very quirky folk rock. There's a lot of quirkiness to this album as well. There's a spoken word track called Press Rats and Warthog, which Ginger Baker says. It's sort of this very folky sort of poetry sort of song. And it has this sort of jammy sort of blues progression going on in the background, which is really cool. White Room is probably one of my favorite songs of all time, just because it's just a really good chord progression. I love that chord progression. Cream used that chord progression before in what's that song? Tales of Brave Ulysses. They used it before, but this one they used the chord progression a lot more effectively, and that guitar solo at the end is just brilliant. Eric Clapton comes and it's so bombastic and brilliant, and that's why I like White Room so much, and it's the best Cream song, and probably my favorite song of all time. I'm looking at the track listing here. There's a lot. There's only 9 tracks. It's about 35 minutes long, and so I was talking about Press Rat and Warthog. Sitting on Top of the World is another blues rock song. Passing the Time is my second favorite song from this album. It's sort of this very Christmassy sort of thing going on. I think a glockenspiel in the background. And then once it's done with the verse, the chorus gets into this really hard rock sort of thing. So that song merges the two influences on this album. And then the last song, Deserted Cities of the Heart, is a very bombastic way to end the album. It's a very dramatic sort of song in terms of the lyrics and the way the music is set up. And so that's a great way to end the studio half of the album. So overall, I would give this a 5 out of 5. This is fantastic. This is, really good work. This is fantastic. Really good stuff. And you know, a lot of people say with this one, like Disraeli Gears is their best because on this album it sounds like they're all fighting each other. They're all trying to be, oh, I can play the drums so good, but they're battling each other in terms of the music. They're all trying to be the best people in the band. And I disagree. I think that it does sound a little grandiose and big, but I don't think they're battling each other. I mean, there were a lot of tensions in the band at this time because of they were their first supergroup, and they all were respected musicians, and they're all trying to show off. But I think that doesn't really come out. It's really good. They're all performing to their peak in this album. That's why I like it so much. So you got the folk, you got the blues rock, you got a tinge of psychedelic. This album isn't really overtly psychedelic like Disraeli Gears. I mean, it is psychedelic, like with White Room and Politician are a bit psychedelic and kind of droning, but it's not like really psychedelic. So it's more bluesy and folky. So that's the studio disc. The live disc. See, if the live disc was good, I mean, I don't like the live disc that much. It's not. I mean, Crossroads is amazing. But that's because they really trim Crossroads down. I mean, I think in the actual recording of Crossroads, which this snippet is taken from, is like, 10 minutes long. But the producer, Felix, whatever his last name is, Pepalardi, Felix Pepalardi really splices the solo up to make it sound a lot more concise than it actually is. But that's why it's so good. But the other songs are really long. And, I'm usually okay with long songs if they have a lot of time changes and stuff. But these are really jammy guitar solos, especially with Spoonful. It has really interweaving guitar solos. But it just seems to go on forever. Past the 10-minute mark, I really like, come on, let's get to the next track. Train Time I like, though. That's a really cool sort of jammy blues song. But it's cool because of the harmonica. The harmonica is really cool sounding, and Jack Bruce gives a really strong, soulful vocal delivery, and that's why Jack Bruce is one of my favorite singers of all time. He has sort of this soul going on with him, and it's this sort of bluesy soul to his voice, and that really comes across in Train Time. And then my least favorite song on the live disc is Toad, because I'm okay with a drum solo being like a minute. Past the minute, it gets really boring, and that is what Toad is. It's just a very long drum solo, and while people, it's a landmark in terms of it's one of the first drum solos, but it's just boring. I mean, you gotta add some melody to it or something, and that's why I think Toad is absolutely awful. And Toad, I would just take off a star for Toad, and I give the live disc a 3 stars out of 5. So Studio Disc gets gets a 5 out of 5. Live Disc gets a 3 out of 5 due to the jamminess, and Toad, which is awful. Yeah. Don't shoot me down if I don't like Toad, and some of you are Toad fans. I just don't find it interesting or compelling, especially considering it's a 16-minute long drum solo. This is Cream's Wheel of Fire. As you can see, just going over the cover a bit, because I'm running out of time. This sort of bubbly psychedelic thing in the front. Track listing on the back. I like the disc. The discs are why do I keep saying dicks? The discs are really bright and vibrant colored, in contrast to the grayness of the actual album cover. Album cover. God, I'm having trouble pronouncing words today. It's early in the morning. But anyway, good, solid studio disc. It's fantastic. I would recommend listening to it. Okay, mediocre live disc. But I'm going to give this a composite score of about 4 out of 5, compositing the two things together. So, Cream Wheels of Fire. This is Mr. Maximus Film. I am going to review In Rainbows next time because I've gotten a chance to really get to know it. But I am signing off now.